Hello everyone. So if you enjoy the show The Black Mirror and you binge watched it like me, the season 6 just came out, and trust me, I mean it's nothing better than to get lost in that kind of a vibe. So if you are looking for what to watch next or what to read next, which imitates that vibe for Black Mirror, I have for you some suggestions, reading suggestions, and I have graded them from a difficulty level of beginner to a little bit advanced. So for people who are just getting into reading, I have some suggestions which are easy to read, and then I have some more advanced suggestions for readers who are well into this craft and would like to have their minds blown off. Well, to start off, now if you've just gotten into reading and you are new and you would not like to read something complicated yet, you would like to vibe with the theme of a little bit of dystopia, or the whole setting of a dystopian world, plus a narrative or a story that has a very mind-blowing kind of an ending, let me suggest to you Murakami. So I have with me Kafka on the shore. Now, before you go into Murakami is too advanced for me, let me tell you, these books read very easily. They are very readable, but there's a but. These books have a kind of narrative which is a little bit for mature readers, plus they are a little all over the place. So if I just give you a gist, this is like about a runaway boy who's called Kafka, and he's 15 years old, and there has been in this book, there is a whole parallel universe thing going on where there are, where Odysseys unravel. There are cats who talk to people, fish who rain down from the sky. It was not even me talking about the main plot of the book. This runaway boy goes to find something which I would not like to reveal, but you get the gist, right? That this is all over the place, and if you are in that mindset where you would like to see, where you would like to read something which completely detaches you from reality, this would be a good start, especially if you are new to reading. A word of caution though, these books are not like, there is a very set plot which you can, at the end of it, will give you all the answers. So if you have that kind of a little bit abstract thing ongoing, I think this book is like really recommended. Okay, from Murakami also, again, if you are a reader who would like to get into whole dystopian vibe and man versus technology debate, but yet want something more understated, like Murakami is wham bam in your face. Okay, so if you want something that is more understated, that is more in-depth analytical thinking, and that's the kind of vibe that you're going for, I would highly recommend Ishiguro. So Ishiguro, I have read two of his, Never Let Me Go as well as Clara and the Sun, which recently came out. But both these books are again deceptively simple to read. So it's not like big world jargons or anything. It's about normal people, their normal lives, and yet there is a mystery which unveils in each of these books. And yeah, I mean, Ishiguro again is a Nobel Prize winner, but don't let I really find it that people when they see authors who have won some kind of a literary prize, they just already box those books into that category that this is not for me. But I would really encourage you to explore more of this literature, because more often than not, they are really profound books which are very easy to read and give you a much better perspective on life than you would be reading other authors. So especially Clara and the Sun, which was nominated for the Nobel Prize, which was nominated for the Booker Prize, I think a year ago or something. I didn't win, but definitely it's worth it. And if you want to read about this whole man versus machine debate, plus where are the feelings of men, and how they change or how they evolve when they lead to certain kind of decisions. I know I'm being vague, but that's all I can say without spoiling the vibe of the book or giving you any spoilers. So Ishiguro, highly recommended. Again, not something which is tied with a bow. It will give you a little bit more intense. It is a little more intense. There is a lot of between the lines stuff that you have to figure out on your own. So Ishiguro is your bet when you want that whole setup of man versus machine debate, plus you want some analytical thinking to so I have now a couple of recommendations that would probably be a little more difficult for you as a reader if you're just starting out, but I would still recommend, if that rocks your boat, why not? Because these two recommendations are very well known in the literary circles, and they have this whole existential crisis vibe going on. And trust me, if you want to read a book which really turns on the whole debate of why am I existing, and believe me, I go through that debate a lot of times, so jokes apart. So if you want to get into that whole debate, again, this is more on the philosophical side of the basis on which in fact Black Mirror is based. How human beings make decisions, how the society decides what's right, what's wrong, and if there is somebody to challenge it, do they come across as a threat or what? So the first recommendation in this category is The Outsider by Albert Camus. A very random person going about his life in a very random way. When he hears about his mother's death, he comes back from that funeral, and then life unfolds in a very seemingly normal way, but definitely that person is not the same. Like he has been affected psychologically, and that is what we see. Now this book, again, it starts off slow, so have the patience, but then there's a turning point when the events start culminating into like a snowball effect, and then it just blows your mind. And the whole philosophical debate, which I know, reading just philosophy on its own might become boring for some people, but including me, sometimes it's very difficult to follow what the train of thought, but not in this book. The way the perspective from which the protagonist is thinking about all these elemental questions which we as human beings must be asking, it really opens up your mind. So the next one which I have is A Lot Closer. It's an old book, and I want to show you the cover first. Can you guess which book this is? So this is 1984 by George Orwell. You must have heard of this book, but as you can see, the title is blacked out. Now this edition was difficult to come by, but me being a hoarder of Penguin editions, I have managed to find this copy. Not sure if it's available now. 1984 is a classic, as we all know, and it is more in the realm of like, this is the OG of the dystopian world. If I just read the first line of the book, it was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. So that sets the stage, kind of, right? What more, if you need more motivation to read this book and you haven't read this book, if really you want to follow from where all this Black Mirror and all these kind of concepts of that Big Brother somebody's watching concept or a dystopian world concept itself came up from, this is that book. And I think this book was banned at some time, and that's why the reason for these kind of covers, but you should read it to just, again, widen your horizons, and while exuding a very otherworldly vibe, this book gives you so much to think about. Okay, so now we have come towards the two recommendations that I have saved for the last, because they are such mind-boggling recommendations that I myself had a very hard time piecing them together when I read it. And over the years, I have reread these books 2 or 3 times, and every time I find a new dimension with which to bother myself, worry myself, and then decide that okay, these two writers are just like. So the first one is Franz Kafka, The Trial. Kafkaesque is a term that means something weird, something extraordinary, or not completely out of the ordinary. And The Trial, you might have heard of Kafka's Metamorphosis, where that's again a very good recommendation if you want to go into this line of reading. The Metamorphosis basically is about a man who wakes up as a cockroach, and then we take it from there. Kafka's The Trial is about a man who's just being tried for a crime which is neither revealed to him nor he's told about, and he's definitely did not commit it because he doesn't know what it is all about. So if ever there was a book which makes us question the futility of human life and existence, it is this one. Not an easy read. This one is quite difficult to read, quite difficult to follow. It looks like a very thin book, but you cannot read it, shut it, and then forget it. I highly recommend this book for the introspection into society and what we are today, and the whole point of existence, if you will. Lastly, drum roll, the last book which completely blew my socks off was my mind. My 3 living brain cells were so destroyed after reading this book that I pledged that probably I will not read this author again, but he has a pull which is you will get drawn to his works but struggle to find out what the meaning of life afterwards. So without much ado, it's Calvino, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. Now this, you go into a bookshop and you buy this book, fine, you like it, but there's a printer's error in your copy, okay? So you take it back to the shop but get a replacement. But what happens is that the replacement of the same book with the same title is a completely different book. Then you try to track the original book that you were reading and end up with a different narrative again. So this remarkable novel, this one novel, leads you through many such false starts, a detective adventure, a romance, a satire, where you try to piece the original narrative, and then there is one big conspiracy which is actually unveiled unto you, and then you might just throw this book out of the window when you finish it. Like, I just threw it at the wall. I'm like, what the hell? But my god, what a gifted writer. His craft is just so good, it will blow your mind. So Calvino, if you are, I would highly suggest that beginners who are just getting into reading might not want to read this, not because I have like a prejudice or anything. I'm just saying because sometimes if you read these kind of books, it just puts you off the entire genre of reading and you're like, what the hell am I reading? So but on the other hand, if you do enjoy this one, do write to me, because I would love to think what other people thought when they were reading this. Some people I know hated this book, like completely hated it, like what the hell was going on. I thought of it as an insane adventure. It was something like that 1001 Nights, kind of an Arabian Nights kind of a story, when there were so many false starts and then things start to piece together, and the moment you think you've got it, whoop, they just vanish. So if I have confused you enough, this book represents Dark Mirror in how many, 200 or 300 pages, so 258 pages. So go read it and see for yourself. That was the end of my suggestion train. Let me know if you, in the comments, if you read any of these books, love them or hate them. Either way, I would like to listen to that, read that, and we can have a chat about some of these mind-boggling books. Do consider subscribing if you liked my video, and see you soon.